morning and welcome. I am Amarachi Ubani. Tonight, President Buhari laments the depth of infrastructural decay in Nigeria, saying the country was materially and morally vandalized. Court dismisses appeal by Senate President Bukola Saraki against the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Nigerian students of Amnesty program stage protests in South Africa over unpaid stipends, and world leaders chart a new diplomatic path to end Syria's civil war as talks resume in Vienna.
On Business News tonight, Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, says the federal government has no intention to further devalue the naira.
And on sports news tonight, embattled Chelsea manager Jose Mourinho keeps sealed lips on whether Saturday's English Premier League clash with Liverpool could decide his future at Stamford Bridge.
We begin tonight with President Muhammadu Buhari's resolve to fight corruption to a standstill, insisting that this is the legacy he wants to leave behind and be remembered for. To this end, the president has given an assurance to Nigerians who are not involved in corruptly enriching themselves with public funds, saying they have nothing to be afraid of. He was speaking with Channel Sir Television at the 3rd India-Africa Summit in New Delhi. President Buhari vowed not to lose sleep over criticism that he's being selective in the fight against corruption, saying that, in his words, the country was so materially vandalized and morally so. He also touched on the composition of his cabinet, indicating that he intends to cut the number of ministers to make it easier to pay salaries. Our State House correspondent Chukwuma Onekusi reports from New Delhi.
Incredible India has set aside over $10 billion grant for African countries. That's one of the main talking points following the one-day summit in New Delhi. And how does Nigeria benefit from the grant?
When India agrees to maybe put a factory, it solves some unemployment problems.
How much have you recovered so far in the fight against corruption? And how do you feel when critics say that you're being selective?
I cannot tell you offhand how much we have recovered. But for those who have been selective, if they were not involved in corruption, they wouldn't mind. They would even encourage us to get whoever has compromised his position in the trust given to him. But I have never lost a sleeve on it, because those that are not corrupt should only encourage us to even do more. I'm not being selective. Whoever is caught will be the documents that incriminates him or her will be used in the courts to prosecute him, for the Nigerians to know really who have abused trust.
Your Excellency, the 3-month target you gave to the military to annihilate, to flush out Boko Haram is running out. A situation where they don't meet the target. Will there be an extension?
Well, the main objective is to get rid of Boko Haram. Whether it's within the time limit we gave to the military or outside it, we'll maintain focus on our objective and we will support them. Normally I'm an optimistic person. Those that have already given up, I'm sorry for them.
The PDP and APC in the National Assembly have been polarized following the confirmation of one of your nominees for ministerial position. Does that bother you?
You see, this is a teamwork. I didn't walk into the presidency alone. I have to depend on all the 3 tiers of government from all parts of the country. We cannot work outside the constitution. There must be a cabinet representative from each state. Yes, there used to be 42 ministers. I think we will be lucky if we can have half of that now, because we cannot afford it. Others they may not be substantive ministers, but they will sit in the cabinet because that's what the constitution said. And we cannot operate outside the constitution.
So are you reducing the number of ministers?
Of course. Unless you can volunteer to be paying them. The government is broke.
There are talks, Your Excellency, about your being too slow in addressing infrastructure issues in a country that is yearning for development.
Where is the money? Do you know? You must have known. The federal government has to help 27 states out of 36 to pay salaries. Nigeria cannot pay salaries. The federal government itself has to summon the governor of central bank and see how it could pay salaries. Not to talk of the projects, the agreement we signed with foreign countries and the counter funding and so on. The country was materially vandalized and morally so.
When it is all said and done, what would you want to be remembered for?
Yes, if we survive it, I want to be remembered that Nigerians have found out that I was genuine. I was a real patriot. Not that I only fought the civil war, but I fought corruption to stand still.
President Buhari assures Indians and the international community of efforts to make Nigeria an envy of all, calling on them to avail themselves of the conducive environment that will be created by his administration for investment to thrive. Chukwuma Onwekusi, Channels Television News.
Back home, the Abuja division of the Court of Appeal in a split decision today dismissed the appeal filed by the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, challenging his arraignment and trial by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. The court threw out all 5 issues formulated by the Senate President before the court. 2 members of the panel of judges held that the appeal lacks merit, while a dissenting judgment upheld it on the grounds that the Code of Conduct Tribunal is not a superior court and the charges before it were not properly filed. Our correspondent Amaka Okafo tells us more.
A little over a week ago, after the appeal court postponed the judgment in an appeal filed by the Senate President challenging his trial by the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the appellate court has delivered its judgment. In a split decision, the 3-man panel dismissed all 5 issues formulated by the Senate President challenging his arraignment. According to the court, the tribunal can be considered as a court of superior jurisdiction, contrary to the claims by the Senate President. It also held that from the report emanating from the Federal High Court, there was no order of interim injunction with regards to the case. As such, the tribunal did not err in law to have continued the trial. On the issue of quorum, the court ruled that the law setting up the tribunal is silent on the minimum number of members that constitute a quorum for the tribunal to decide a case. Therefore, a panel of 2 judges can go ahead with the trial at the tribunal. The court also held that the Deputy Director in the Office of the Attorney General did not err in law when he filed the charges on behalf of the federal government.
We told them from day one that you are misadvising him. So, and that is the position, and we have vindicated today that their position is not right.
In his dissenting judgment, Justice Joseph Ekanem, who is a member of the panel, did not agree that the Code of Conduct Tribunal is a court of records because it is not included as a court of superior records in the Constitution. However, it has powers to punish anyone who has contravened the Code of Conduct Act where it is appropriate. While Justice Ekanem agreed that in the absence of the Attorney General of the Federation, the Solicitor General can authorize the prosecution of any individual. In the instant case, the law has not been demonstrated. According to him, a mere declaration by the Deputy Director in the Office of the Attorney General that he had been directed by the Solicitor General to file the charges against the Senate President cannot be admissible in law. In view of this, he ruled that the 13-count charge before the tribunal is incompetent and is set aside while discharging the Senate President.
By the decision of the court itself, you can see there was a descending judgment delivered by one of the justices. We intend to test the veracity of this judgment. We want to ventilate and exhaust our right of appeal. We'll be testing it in the Supreme Court, inshallah, and so shall we be there.
The battle now shifts to the Supreme Court, where the Senate President, through his lawyers, will be testing the judgment. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
The All Progressives Congress has dismissed the communique issued by the PDP's National Caucus on the political developments in the nation. The APC describes the PDP statement as a rehash of its infantile whining, which will not save it from going down unless it rebrands urgently. National Publicity Secretary of the APC, Lai Mohammed, said the PDP cannot continue to do things in its trademark ways and expect a different result. The APC notes that the PDP's ceaseless and ill-advised attack on the judiciary and the demonization of everyone but itself will fetch the party nothing but political grief. The APC admonished the PDP to engage in strategic thinking that could propel national development. Meanwhile, the Nigeria Customs Service has been explaining its part in the controversy surrounding the sudden resignation of some of its top officers. All 5 Deputy Controllers General of Customs yesterday quit their appointments. They are the DCG in charge of Finance, Administration and Technical Service, John Ate, DCG Tariff and Trade, Adewuyi Akiade, DCG Strategic Research and Policy, Esi Nwosu, DCG Enforcement, Investigation and Inspection, Musa Tahir, and DCG Human Resource Development, Ibrahim Mira. In a one-page letter jointly signed by all 5 of them, the senior officers said they resigned from their posts in protest over their redeployment to area commands as controllers. Nigeria has 6 Deputy Controllers of Customs assisting the Controller General, but the 6th had early retired. But the service in a statement explained that the resignation of the DCGs is of no effect, as all 5 were due for retirement this year. It adds that a total of 34 senior officers in the service have been retired as part of an ongoing reorganization in the customs, which it claims is part of the mandate of the new Comptroller General, Mr. Hamid Ali. In part 2 after the break, Nigerian students protest unpaid stipends at the Nigerian High Commission in Pretoria. Please join us again.